The Indianapolis Colts got Charvarius Ward and Leatu Latu back to practice on Wednesday, but the injury bug has spread itself to the Colts offense. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you all for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. This is your daily podcast covering your Indianapolis Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every single detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward, Mazda, Move and Be Moved. My name is Zach Hicks, your resident film nerd of HorseshoeHuddle.com, and I'm joined, as always, by Jake Arthur, the credentialed Crocs on the ground for Round Table Sports. That is his official title over there, so make sure you're checking that out.
In my contract.
Yeah, it's in his contract, exactly. We're going to be diving into the Colts' latest injury report, which is promising in some ways, but saddening in other ways. We're going to talk about all that here in the first segment. Then we're going to dive into some fact or fiction on the Colts offense or defense, give our opinions on if some aspects of this Colts team are sustainable, if they're going to last all year, or if this might be some of that early season mirage. We're going to give all of our opinions on that. But Jake, let's start with this injury report. You have the list of just the long list of injuries for both teams here on Wednesday. It's week 3 of the NFL season. Injuries pile up, but some good and bad news for both of these teams going into this game.
Yeah, they're starting to come in now, baby. But no, we got some great news to kind of start Wednesday. So Charvarius Ward back at practice. He was out all last week as he was returning from a concussion. Leatu Latu. Now, how Shane Steichen phrased it when he spoke to us before practice made it seem like Latu wasn't going to practice and that he was just working out. But then we get out there and Latu is practicing. It was pads today. So Latu was out there. Ward was out there. It was a good sign because it wasn't a red non-contact jersey for Ward. And we've later found out he's now progressed to a full practice already. So very positive sign for Ward to perhaps clear the concussion protocol this week. And then Latu, we'll see how it goes. Limited for him. I'm always very iffy with hamstrings. For me, I almost am of the belief that you need to log a full week of full practices before you go out there and play on a hamstring again. But we'll see. I mean, everybody's different. Every hamstring injury is kind of different as well. So nonetheless, really good news there. And then it was very sobering when we noticed that Josh Downs and Tyler Warren were not practicing on Wednesday. Now, it's not doom or anything like that. It's only Wednesday. Those guys could be back tomorrow. They could be back Friday. But the fact that 2 of your most critical pieces in the passing game are not practicing obviously gives you a little bit of pause, especially Tyler Warren, who honestly has almost been the engine of the passing game so far. He's been the most dynamic threat out there for certain. And then Josh Downs, only a couple catches week 1, but he came back and had the type of game we were expecting from him that he would have all throughout the season in week 2 in that win against the Broncos. So Josh Downs is an ankle. Tyler Warren is a toe. We just found out about those today. We didn't know about those coming out of the game or anything. And then Bernard Ryman popped up as a limited participant with an illness. Around Indy, stomach bug going around here. I don't know if that's what he's got going on, but I would not be shocked. I believe he's got a young one at home now. Austin Ajake, who was just brought up to the active roster. He was out of practice last week, but they don't report practice squad injuries. Turns out he had a throat injury, which always seems just incredibly painful. But he was a full participant. Tyler Goodson has been upgraded to a full participant now with the elbow. He's been limited for 2 weeks. But today I noticed him more involved in just going full speed more than I had been. He does have that big, huge, gaudy brace on his elbow that I actually think is a knee brace that J.J. Watt kind of made en vogue across the league. But certainly good for him to be a full participant. Maybe he can finally get out there this week. And then, of course, Charvarius Ward, a full participant with the concussion. So very good news for the most part. We'll obviously want to monitor Warren and Downs. But what do you think? I mean, obviously some big positives there, but we could fill out a whole segment on Friday about what to do if either of those really prominent players is out.
Yeah, it's good news that Charvarius Ward looks like he's in line to play this weekend. I think the Colts' pass coverage will be much improved over last week's as long as you have Charvarius Ward out there, because having that top corner makes life easier for everybody else in the secondary. So getting Ward back, hopefully Latu, but like you said, Jake, you don't want to push hamstring injuries. We'll see where that really goes there, because the Colts have already been burned once by pushing a guy out there too early with a hamstring injury. Jalen Jones ended up on IR just last week because he re-injured his. So it's going to be tough with the hamstring, but looks good for Charvarius Ward. Good to get Tyler Goodson out there for special teams. But, the last thing we want to touch is this offense right now. This offense has been humming in all facets, run game, passing game, everything is clicking. And the last thing you need are your two guys that have essentially, Michael Pittman Jr. as well, but those two have been like core pieces through 2 weeks, with Tyler Warren leading the team in receiving yards. Josh Downs had every third down conversion, it felt like, last week. The last thing you want is one of those guys or both those guys, God forbid, being out this week. So it's not terribly concerning as of right now. We don't have much information on it. And if they both log DNPs again tomorrow, then we're probably moving the panic meter up a good bit. But Wednesday DNPs are not the end of the world. We'll wait and see what the Thursday and then the Friday obviously will be the big tell. See what those injury reports look like for those two guys.
Yeah, so let's hold our breath for now, but let's not panic quite yet, because it does bear monitoring, but we should not freak out quite yet. And then let's go and flip over to the Titans side of things. Guys who were not practicing today. You got a couple starters on the offensive line. Right tackle J.C. Latham with a hip injury, and guard Kevin Zeitler with the biceps. Now, Latham was out last week. So if he's still not participating, good money says he may not be out there on Sunday. Zeitler is a new one with the biceps. So I believe Zeitler is their right guard, Zach, I think.
Yeah, Skoronsky is their left guard. So, yeah.
Yeah, so the right side of their line, that's an offensive line that's already given up 11 sacks as well. They're not running the ball that great either. So if the Colts defensive line is looking for a tune-up game, this might be it for them. Also, wide receiver Bryce Oliver is not participating. I've got to imagine that's a special teams guy. L'Jarius Sneed didn't practice today with the back injury. They're kind of ramping up his involvement, though. I believe last week was his first action since going on IR last year, or they're getting him along slowly, whatever it is.
He played a couple snaps in week 1. I think it was only like 10 snaps or something, and then they ramped it up a good bit in week 2. So I'm expecting he'll log like a limited tomorrow and then a full on Friday and then play on Sunday. But either way, it hasn't been great for Sneed so far this year. He has struggled a lot. So we'll see if maybe that's because he's still dealing with some of those injuries.
Yeah, I'm sure he does not want to come back and face Michael Pittman Jr. And then limited participants for them. You got running back Kalel Mullings, who, again, I'm sure is probably a special teamer. And then defensive tackle Tavondre Sweat, who that's a formidable force in the middle there next to Jeffrey Simmons. He was out last week. So we'll see him being a limited participant. Obviously, some progress might be out there against the Colts on Sunday. And then Kevin Winston, a pretty heavy contributor on defense for them at safety. He was limited with a hamstring, so you got to keep an eye on that. I believe he was out last week. So both sides a little banged up. Some pretty vital players on both sides that we got to keep an eye on throughout the week.
Yeah, the big thing for the Titans is just looking at the trenches and seeing how that develops throughout the week, because if they're down 2 offensive line starters on already what's been one of the worst offensive lines in football this year, then this Colts pass rush has no excuse to not be productive after having just a dreadful performance against the Denver Broncos where they logged only 5 pressures and allowed 6 yards a carry in that game, it felt like. Then they need to bounce back against a Titans team that might be down backups, and then when the starters aren't even performing well. And then Tavondre Sweat on the other side of the ball, that he is a big part of what they want to do on run defense. He clogs up the middle, especially against a guy like Tanner Bortolini on the interior, who kind of struggles to get guys like that out of the hole. So if he doesn't play, the Colts run game gets a massive boost. Like you said, I don't think he played this past week, and the Rams are able to run the ball pretty effectively. So these are big ones here in the trenches for the Titans. Both teams dealing with potential big losses going into this weekend. It's only the first injury report, so we don't really know exactly what this means for Sunday, but come tomorrow, we'll have a pretty clear picture, I think.
Yeah, Tyler Rowland and I discussed this matchup in the crossover for Thursday that'll come out. but Zach and I will be able to touch way more on the injuries when we have a better look at this after a couple days on Friday. So, all right, guys, coming up, we're going to start getting into our fact or fiction. I'm going to toss some things Zach's way, see if these things are legit. Are they fool's gold? What's going to be what by the end of the season? We'll get started with the offense in just a moment. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward is, drumroll please, Zach. It could only be one. It could only be one option for the Colts. Obviously, their game-winning field goal against the Denver Broncos. So they get the ball with just over 3 minutes left. They get down to the 40-yard line, and then of course there's the missed 60-yard kick. We're not going to debate the play calling at the moment. Leverage penalty gives them new life. Move up 15 yards. Spencer Schrader, you are the man. He sends the Colts home with a victory. And you know what? That is exactly what we're talking about here with Mazda. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. And you guys know this NFL season is back. It's obviously bringing a lot of intrigue. And there is really nothing better than being in the stadium, surrounded by fans, cheering on your team. I mean, I was in the stadium at Lucas Oil, on Sunday. I wasn't in there. We can't hear things full bore when we're in the press box, but I absolutely know the atmosphere in there was electric. But let's be honest, the whole process of getting tickets can be a hassle. Between waiting in queues, the login screens, and the prices jumping at checkout, it's just frustrating. But that's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and it's backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all the fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay at the end. I personally have used Game Time recently. I'm actually going to Columbus, Ohio tomorrow night for something purchased on Game Time. So I can absolutely attest that it is legit. I've used it numerous times. I've recommended to friends that they use it numerous times. One of the biggest things I like is the zone deals. You just pick the section. If you're not picky about it, again, you just pick that section and Game Time will get the best seats for you and you save big bucks. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and it's less stressful than any other way that I bought tickets. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Go download Game Time today. Welcome back, everydayers. Welcome back, Colts fans. Now we're going into our little game show mode. We're going fact or fiction here. We're going to start with the offensive side of the ball. I'm going to go in increasing recklessness here, Zach. Okay, so I'll throw the big ones actually at the end. So let's just start here. The Colts right now have the number 2 offense in the league. They have scored 33 points and then 29 points. They have gone over 400 yards of offense in both games. Almost went 500 against one of the best defenses in the league last week against the Broncos. I think only allowed 1 sack to a team that led the league in sacks last year. So the offense is legit. It's not just the passing game. It's not just the run game. It's not just the offensive line. It's everything is clicking right now. So fact or fiction, the Colts have a legitimate top 10 offense, throughout the season. By the time this thing is said and done, the Colts do have a top 10 offense.
As long as they avoid major injuries on that side of the ball, then yeah, I you know what? I'm gonna buy it, and I'll use this opportunity to put out my formal apology to Daniel Jones, because some people have complained that I haven't put out a formal apology.
I think you and I were both we're not waiting for the other shoe to drop, but we're waiting beyond week 2 to do it, I think.
Yeah, but I will say, regardless of what it is, just giving the first 2 weeks that we got out of him, I've clearly been wrong on Daniel Jones. So this is my formal apology here. He's been much better than I ever could have anticipated. And you guys could tell yesterday when I had Ben Boris on how much we were just raving about how well he's played in this offense. And I think when you have a quarterback who has the command and the pre-snap awareness that he's playing with right now, plus all the weapons the Colts have, plus an offensive line that is playing really well and meshing really well together, and a top 2, top 3 running back in football. Heck, Jake's early prediction, the hot take from the offseason, I got on him a lot about leading the league in rushing.
I am killing it with my bold takes so
You're
far.
killing it right now.
Lie.
Yeah, Daniel Jones looks like he might be the comeback player of the year too. Like Jake is killing it with his bold predictions.
Yep.
And yeah, like I believe in this offense to the degree where they can be a top 10 offense this season by the end of the year, as long as they avoid the major injury. Like it definitely changes if a Ryman goes down, or I mean, Tyler Warren's dealing with an injury right now. That could change a lot of things here. But I think as long as they avoid the major injuries and this offense stays relatively healthy, I just don't know how you really stop it. Like the one question I have left for them is, how do they perform against a defense that rushes 4 effectively, or like relatively effectively, and drops into a 7-man zone and dares Jones to do more check down stuff and just get the ball out quick? Can these playmakers make plays just in the short plane and after the catch? And can the offense still be productive that way? Because we've seen them beat man coverage. We've seen them beat bad defense like the Dolphins, and we've seen them beat the blitz a lot these first 2 weeks. That's the last question I have to have answered. And I think their easy answer is let's just run Jonathan Taylor in those games. So I think this offense is a well-oiled machine. I think they have a quarterback that's operating it the way that Shane Steichen wants. And I think they have a ton of talent across the board, from O-line to running back to pass catchers. I mean, they can rotate 4 to 5 receivers at ease. And these guys are all making plays. Their tight end room is clearly defined with a legit star on top. Like, I think this is a very, very good offense. And, if you told me like buy or sell top 5 or top 3, then I probably would have said sell. But since you're telling me factor fiction on top 10, yeah, I think this can be a top 10 offense. I think we're looking at like that 8 to 12 range by the end of the season. Once regression hits in a little bit, I still think they're going to be in that 8 to 12 range by the end of the year.
Completely agree. I think at some point, like, they're not going to be getting 450 yards of offense a game, essentially. But I do think they're going to maintain being a top 10 offense throughout the year. And I'll lump scoring. This was on yardage, but like I'll lump scoring in there too. Like I think they'll be able to score points and produce yards most weeks. It's just they're like you said, there aren't really many questions left. The offensive line has done really well. Like Daniel Jones, I don't care if he is producing as a system quarterback. He is excelling in that role. Like, who cares? Like, it's resulting in a great offense. The passing weapons have been great. So what do you look at as the weak point of this offense right now? You have to pick your poison if you're a defense. So they have options every single week to be able to attack a defense. So I totally agree. My next one, Tyler Warren he's gonna be the engine of the passing game and be essentially the number 1 passing target throughout the year. That doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to lead them in targets, so to speak, like a Josh Downs likely will. It means like when a play needs to be made, it's Tyler Warren, like the guy who's going to be the biggest playmaker week in and week out, like the guy who's the clear alpha dog of the passing game, that we're going to see that it's Tyler Warren throughout the entire year, even as a rookie.
I'm going to say fiction on that, because I think the beauty of this Colts offense is like every one of these guys is vital to the operation. This is why I think on offense, they just got to stay healthy this year, because every player serves such a specific role that it's hard to replace that specific role. I think Tyler Warren is the most unique element to it and the hardest to replace when it comes to this offense. So in a sense, that's the fact of what you're saying here, Jake. But I think the fiction is that it just depends on the situation, on who the biggest playmaker is. 3rd and 6, my biggest playmaker is Josh Downs. 1st and 10 after a turnover, my biggest playmaker is Alec Pierce. I'm going deep on that. If I know that I'm getting man coverage, my biggest playmaker is A.D. Mitchell. Throwing it over the middle, Michael Pittman Jr. And then all my goofy stuff to get my big plays, Tyler Warren. And then, and then Jonathan Taylor on a down-to-down basis. So I think, the beauty of this offense is everybody is just so essential to the process of it all that I can't really say Tyler Warren is going to be like the number 1 guy, because I think it's like 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, 1E, 1F. And I think that's how it's going to be this whole season. I guess if I had to pick one person, though, I think it's Jonathan Taylor is the most important, especially with his just resurgence now in the pass game as a pass protector and a pass catcher. So I think Taylor is just the number 1 overall piece of the offense. besides the quarterback, obviously. And then Warren is up there with, all these pass catchers as being just the most important player in that offense.
I like it. It feels like for a couple years now, they've talked about the receiver room and the pass catchers as a whole, comparing them to a basketball team, like a starting five.
Right.
And the way you described it just perfectly nails that. Like Zaire Franklin even used that analogy today, talking about the team in general is like a basketball team where everyone has such a specific role that they're trying to be elite at. And, different guys fit into that to form one cohesive thing. Zaire compared them to the Pacers and how they were able to really succeed in that, doing that, accomplishing that. We're going to run this segment long because I'm not bypassing this one for you, Zach. So, fact or fiction, at this rate, Daniel Jones gets a new contract from the Colts by the end of the year. Or when it comes time.
Yeah, look, if they keep up this pace, they're going to be a playoff team for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll end up keeping Steichen and Ballard. Again, it's only week 2, so we can't really predict everything that's going to happen this year. Again, injuries can happen and regression can happen. But as of right now, everything's looking great. The hype is great. The team is riding high. Steichen and Ballard look really good from a lot of their offseason stuff. So the way it's looking currently, and even with my projection of some regression, I think, of course, you give Daniel Jones a new contract. Like, I'm not stubborn enough to say, like, oh, no, because of my preseason opinion, we can't reward good play. Look, if he gets you to the playoffs and he's the comeback player of the year and he's really just showing this mastery of the offense all season long, of course you extend him. Now, you probably want to protect yourself a little bit and give like a 3-year extension if you can with an out after 2 years, just because he's had the injury history and you don't want to put all your eggs in that basket. But reward the guy with the $30+ $40+ million contract per year if he plays all year like this. I absolutely pay him.
I'm with you. So we've talked about, like, even with him not before the season when we weren't super confident that it was possible for them to get to the playoffs, but that even so you were probably still looking to replace him at the end of the year. Not like this. Like, he, again, I said he was a system quarterback in here with Shane Steichen, but if that system is working at like such a high rate, you keep that ball rolling. You bring him back. Again, I don't, just like you're saying, I wouldn't throw 4 or 5 years at him, but I'd lock him up for 2-3 years. Like, I think when a guy is being such a difference maker like this and has proven to be so important and critical to the movement of the offense, because now at this rate, picture if it's been Anthony in there and you're riding with the peaks and valleys and the roller coaster of Anthony, it wouldn't quite look like this.
No,
like there'd be some high points, but there would be some low points that Daniel just hasn't had yet. Yeah. So I agree. I think at this rate, if they keep it up looking like this really high level team, let's say they win the AFC South, not only just make the playoffs, but win the AFC South, I think you got to give them a new deal.
Yeah, look, Jared Goff with the Detroit Lions is a system quarterback. You still pay him because he's a huge part of that system.
Exactly.
It's like if we want to say system quarterback for Jones, he's not like he's a bad quarterback. Like, he's the most important piece of the system working because
Brock
he's
Purdy.
the distributor, right? Brock Purdy, like whatever you want to call it. Like, if he's in that tier of guys, he's performing at a high level. So yeah, if he keeps this up, and it doesn't even need to be at the same level, there can be a regression of this because I'm not of the mind that he's going to finish this year with 4,500 yards and 30 touchdowns, and no picks. Like, obviously there's going to be some fall off in some regard, but I think if he keeps this up and it leads you to the playoffs, especially if he gets you to the playoffs, reward him for sure. Every player should be rewarded if they deserve it.
Yeah, no, this looks much better than I anticipated it would. Even, they're winning and it looks a lot better than I thought winning would look for them. So yeah, let's lock our opinions in there. Again, opinions are fluid as new information comes about. So bear with us. Like, don't hold our feet to the fire on this come November, December if things go south. But yeah, coming up, we're going to look at the defensive side of the ball, which has not been as high powered as the offense, but we've seen, I don't want to say too extreme so far, but they were absolutely elite in week 1. And we saw some of the things that they could, some opportunities for growth, let's say, in week 2. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the entire app. I personally love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. player props, building a same game parlay, or even jumping in as the live action unfolds. We've all got that buddy that bets way too much, and the way he does it is not necessarily the way you'd want to do it. But FanDuel gives you a million different options so that you have something in common with this guy to talk about, but you can do it in your own way. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, welcome back, everydayers. We are talking fact or fiction. We just talked offense. Now it's flipped to the defense. Now, Zach, since both the offense and defense are ranking so high right now, we're going to have a comparable start here with the defense. So the Colts currently rank number 5 in defense right now. By the end of the year, we've seen the coaching can be really strong, and we've seen the players execute it at a really high level, the game plan, at least in week 1. Let's say by the end of the year, are the Colts a top 10 defense?
So the way that you have it to have them at number 5 is yards allowed per game,
yards.
Right? I think they could be top 5 in yards allowed per game, but like overall, I don't think they're going to be a top 10 defense. So I'll say fiction just in the overall course of it. I think EPA per play, they're like 14th right now. DVOA, I think they just fell outside the top 10 as well. And I think we'll see some ebbs and flows where they probably settle in that like middle of the pack by the end of the season. Now, again, the yards allowed per game, I think they still could be top 10 by the end of the year, especially if the Colts offense keeps controlling the football the way they have through these first 2 weeks, because you're just not going to be on the field very often to give up yards. But I think in terms of like all the advanced metrics we look at, again, like DVOA, EPA per play, success rate, I just think they're going to settle in around middle of the pack. I don't think they have enough on the defensive line to really be a top 10 unit by the end of the year, but I believe in the secondary as long as all 4 of Ward, Cross, Bynum, and Kenny are healthy for most of the season. It's going to be hard to throw on this team, I think, most weeks, because those guys are just so formidable on the back end. So, yeah, I think they'll settle in around middle of the pack. So I'll say fiction on this first one here.
I'm with you pretty much for all the same reasons. Like, I do have concerns about the run defense. I have concerns about the pass rush, but I really like that secondary. I think, there's a reason Lou Anarumo and Jerome Henderson and them have really leaned into investing in that secondary, and it's looked good. But you've also got a lot of older guys who there's going to be some injuries there as well. So all those things considered, like, I think they're going to have their elite weeks like we saw at week 1. They'll have probably a handful of those, but in general, there's going to be some games like Denver as well where maybe they win, but it's because the defense stepped up at the end when they needed to. And there's going to be some bumps in the road. So, yeah, I would imagine they settle somewhere in the middle, around 15, 16 or so. Probably not top 10, but good enough to win with. The pass rush is the Colts' Achilles heel of the entire team. Fact or fiction?
The rush with 4 or just the pass rush in general?
Pass rush. I mean, because a coach would love to be able to get home with 4. You don't want to have to manufacture a ton of pressure. I mean, Lou's going to anyways, but you're just your natural pass rush with your front 4. That's their Achilles heel.
I think by the end of the year, it won't feel like the Achilles heel, but like when we watch the games, it will be. Like, I don't know. Like, I think rushing with 4 will be their Achilles heel this season, because I just don't know if the edge room is going to be good enough, especially now that you factor in that what we've been saying about Leatu Latu with the hamstring. Those things linger, man. They linger for a long time. And he was kind of the one saving grace of the edge room. Kwity Paye is just not a very effective rusher. JT Tuimoloau is not ready yet. Ebukam is just not going to get back to what we wanted. Like, again, we talked about this all off season. Ebukam's not going to get there. And he had his big moment to start on this past weekend. It just wasn't good at all. I think I don't even think he was one of the 5 pressures that the Colts had in this past game. And he got most of the snaps there in the edge room. So, yeah, I don't think that they're going to be able to win effectively rushing with 4. But I think when you look at the division they're in, they get 6 games against quarterbacks who take a lot of sacks. In terms of Ward, in terms of Stroud with that offensive line, and then Trevor Lawrence as well. I think they're gonna just rack up the sacks in these divisional games, and I think there's going to be a good mix of simmed pressures and blitzes that get the sack numbers more middle of the road. But I think just in terms of getting constant pressure with 4, I do agree that this might be their Achilles heel this year, because I mean, it looked ugly this past weekend without Leatu Latu, and I know the Broncos have a really good offensive line, but I don't know if Latu coming back from an injury that is probably going to be there all year is going to magically fix this pass rush.
Yeah, I would say like I don't think it's going to ruin the season, but I do think it's arguably their biggest issue is not being able to generate much with just their 4-man rush. I mean, it was 5 pressures last week, but it was also only 5 hurries. They weren't hits, they weren't sacks. It was 5 hurries.
Well, there was one hit, the one hit laid out of bounds that got them 15 yards against
there you
them.
go. And I will say there were the J.K. Dobbins thing where Dobbins thought someone jumped off. So that should have been a sack.
Oh, 100% was a sack. I have no clue why that wasn't.
Yeah. If a running back touches the ball, even on play action, that's when it gets ruled a run for the quarterback and not a sack. Dobbins, I don't think touched it, so it should have been a sack for Buck. I digress. But yeah, we are seeing that it's solely reliant on Latu. And again, I'm not disappointed in his production, but he has the hamstring right now. And in week 1, he didn't show you that like elite pass rush yet. I'm not going to say it's not coming this year, but like we don't have enough data to suggest that it's a foregone conclusion. JT Tuimoloau was a healthy scratch in week 1, got like 5 snaps in week 2. Outside of those guys, you don't really have someone who bends the edge, really. You got power rushers. Tuimoloau can get around an edge a little bit, but can't really sniff the field yet. So I don't know what to expect from this. Again, there is creative ways to get pressure, and they will lean on that. But if there's an Achilles heel with this team outside of like the run defense, I would say it's the 4-man rush.
Here's my crazy hot take. Get more out of Tomiwa on the field. He had 4 rush snaps this past week, had 1 quarterback pressure in those 4 rush snaps. And here's one that you might like, Jake, because you liked him before the year. Get some Chad Muma out there for some blitz concepts. Like he couldn't cover me in the open field.
I don't know that. Yeah, I think I would just really prefer for it to be Zaire Franklin and Joe Bocci as the linebackers that represent the defense.
I'm saying just do what you did last year whenever Stewart got on the field. It's like, hey, we can't put this guy in coverage. Just run with your head down right at an offensive lineman and generate some disruption back there because we just need some disruption right now in the pocket. I do agree, though. Muma should not be covering anybody. I'm with you on that. And honestly, we saw this past weekend that McGrone shouldn't be out there either on defense. No. So, yeah, like if you're going to do anything else, maybe get some Muma, some rush snaps because he might not be able to cover, but like he is a downhill, like Grant Stewart type guy. You might be able to get a little bit of that pop into some offensive linemen and get some disruption that way.
Yeah, there might be some packages where there's good use for him, but yeah, so far I am unimpressed by anyone not named Zaire Franklin or Joe Bocci at linebacker. I got one more for you. Now we know how Lou has his strong relationships and he has a hard reliance on his veterans, but 32-year-old Xavier Howard will not be a starting cornerback for the Colts by the end of the year.
Yeah, I'm going to say a fact on that he's not going to be a starter by the end of the year.
Correct. Like he'll be replaced as a starter.
Okay, you changed it from the outline, so I got to make sure I get that. You said will be starting in the outline. So
well, that's fact or fiction still.
I'm going to say he's not going to be the starter by the end of the season. He might still have a role in this defense, but I think the one thing that kind of got me in a little bit was in week 1, we saw a lot of Mekhi Blackmon in there for Howard. And then they didn't even like give anybody else snaps besides Blackmon this past week when Ward was out. I think they're going to slowly work Blackmon into being like that number 2 guy, especially by the end of the season. And Lou Anarumo has spoken very high on Blackmon every time he speaks about him. So part of me just thinks that they might want to just slowly get Blackmon into that role. I don't think Howard's going to get phased out completely, but it might be like a 2 series on, 1 series off type thing like it was in week 1. But the other way, I think Blackmon might overtake just the more snaps there on the outside. But yeah, I think it's down to one of those 2 guys. And I think just the way I've seen Lou talk about Blackmon in a lot of ways, and Blackmon honestly wasn't too bad this past week. I think he might be that guy that they're trying to get ready to be the other outside corner.
Yeah, I still think there's stuff you could do with Howard. Like you could set him back as being almost like a spy in the secondary in certain looks. I wouldn't have been super opposed to see Jonathan Edwards get a little run, on Sunday. I don't know what it's going to take for a rookie UDFA to unseat a guy that Lou has a strong relationship with. But I mean, in the name of accountability, that like accountability has been one of the biggest things people have said about Lou since he got here, that he is hard on everybody, no matter who you are. And it's one thing if Howard gives up the occasional touchdown or something, or if he gets picked on by a team, but if the penalties are coming with it, like that shines such a spotlight on the fact that it's like, this is not working. Now I'm not saying that like it can't work this year. It doesn't look great, but like if it keeps rolling down this path, then I think it's going to force their hand to have to make a move.
Yeah, no, it can't continue the way it was this past week. I mean, that was just not good enough there.
Yeah, I got you. No, it wasn't. And I mean, at the end of the day, like they have preached accountability and they want to get the right guys in there. I know some of these guys are young, but Mekhi Blackmon is a guy that they traded for. I mean, a 6th-round pick nonetheless, but he's at least getting some playing time. So I mean, that's a realistic avenue for me. I don't think it's going to take them all the convincing in the world that a 32-year-old who hasn't played since 2023 maybe isn't it. You know what I mean? I think it's a nice project they want to try and they hope it works, but I don't think they're going to have to peel that out of Lou's cold dead fingers, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we could certainly see a move come in there before the end of the season. But yeah, guys, that's all we have today. We're running a little bit late on this show, so we're going to wrap it up here. We want to thank you guys for making Locked On Colts your first listen today and every day. The NFL season is finally here. So for your next listen, go get a double dose of Locked On NFL podcast. Tyler, the Madman Rowland, gives you a double shot of NFL espresso to start your football day, while Tony Wiggins gives you the smoothest barbershop breakdowns to end the day. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. If you want to become a Locked On Colts insider and chat with us directly and get that insider scoop, follow the link in our show notes. And if you don't already, make sure you're following at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks 2, all on socials. We're also on TikTok and Instagram, and also subscribe to us on YouTube wherever you listen to your podcast. We love you guys' ratings, views. Again, come on YouTube. You can see me having a coughing breakdown here at the end of the episode. We want to wish you guys a great day, and we'll see you guys back here tomorrow for Crossover Thursday.